will be talking about Jesus as the foundational hierophany par excellence. It sounds quite technical, but I suppose part of my presentation is too technical. Re-envisioning a Christology of world religions. So basically talking about a theology of religions from the perspective of Christology. Now, I will be speaking from my theological background, my history of religious background, and sort of missiological, interest. Since my very early, teen years, I've always been sort of fascinated, obsessed, and puzzled by the problem of being part of one religion and having at the same time to answer the question, what's the value of other religions? And I think that this sort of question has become more and more a pressing issue throughout modernity, and especially in our time and age. Now, I will be using basically two schemata. One is going to be like history of religions based, and the other one theological. And I'll try to show how both of them can be amalgamated, sort of synthesized, in order to present some thoughts of mine on Christology of religions, and of course engage in dialogue with you. Now, the very well-known, acclaimed, internationally acclaimed Romanian historian of religion, Mircea Eliade, basically divided human experience into two. Of course, this is not his. It's derived from Nietzsche. We have an experience, a life experience, which is linearity, and we have a life experience which is cyclical. So the cyclical and the linear can be presented as different ways of relating to the sacred, to what a given collectivity or individual or a period or a society understands as the sacred. Now, when it comes to the circular, kind of relating to the sacred, we have religion proper. For Eliade, in order to talk about religion proper, you must have a cyclical understanding of your relation with the sacred. Which means what? More or less that your sacred experience is based in nature. Because nature, in a way, can be understood, experienced as a circle, as a cycle, as a repetition, a return, again and again and again. And why do you need this return? Because always you are frustrated, because always you fail. You aim towards your sacred and you always don't get it at the end. So you have to try again and again and again and again. And this psychological need is translated into the naturalistic type of religiosity, which strictly speaking is the only type of religiosity. Now, when you do not buy into that, somehow you have been released from this frustration, from this burden, and you break the circle, and the cycle, and you turn it into, you stretch it out and you turn it into a line, and you start walking on it, going towards a certain destination, however long that takes, then you are out of religion. In this sense, for the first time, the Israelite experience of the sacred abolished religion. For the first time, not totally. The totality of this abolishment, renouncement, comes with Christianity. So the famous idea, okay, Christianity is not a religion, which is very sort of, one would say, Bartian. Has its own understanding and prerequisites and criteria in the history of religions, in thinkers like Eliade. Now, if Christianity is not a religion, then what on earth, okay, is it doing with religion? How does religion come into the equation of Christianity? Now, in order to solve this, Eliade uses another term, which is a much more broader and radical term. But for the first step of our purposes is that Christianity is not a religion. For the sake, because we have mathematicians here, for the sake of, of better science, I'm just using is not in the sense of opposition, but is not. Okay, it's not Christianity is not a religion, which means that it can relate to religions, okay, 1, 2, 3, 100 religions, or even none, and that wouldn't make any difference. Okay, because it's different. Now, step 2. Eliade, I'm just going to focus on Eliade regarding the history of religion, says that there is something which is prior, broader, and more important than religion. There is something that makes religion basically what it is, in a sense. But at the same time, it's something broader than religion. This is how he sort of escapes the paradox. Okay, Christianity is not a religion, but there's so much religion in Christianity. How does it take it in? Because it's something, Christianity is something, it's about something that is prior to religion, that religion really needs and rests upon, and that's hierophany. Hierophany. Hierophany is an expression, a manifestation of the sacred, of the hieron. Now, what he's saying now is not just that Christianity is a hierophany, because anything is a hierophany. What he's saying is that if religion, absolute, total, 100% religion, is the cyclical understanding of nature, then the linear experience of the sacred is, in the case of Christianity, basically in the case of the person of Jesus, the par excellence hierophany. So we would say a monotheism, okay, is hierophanic, whereas a polytheism is religious. Christianity is the most hierophanic of hierophanics. Okay, so let's see this term now. A hierophany. A hierophany is a structure. Anything can be a hierophany technically. Anything. And basically everything has been a hierophany. But it's a structure. And it's a structure, to recall Aristotle, it has a fourfold causality. There is an agent, there is a material cause, there is a formal cause, and there is a final cause. Now, what is interesting here is the agent. There is always someone who says, and that someone can be a subjectivity, a subject, but it also can be intersubjectivity, collectivity. There's someone, okay, who says that something is a hierophany. Now, this someone, this consciousness, is part of the hierophany. This is very, very crucial. So in a sense, just to give you an example, Muhammad, okay, presents his hierophany. What's his hierophany? The will of Allah throughout his ministry. But he, Muhammad, his consciousness, his subjectivity, as a subject himself, he's part of it. He's not only the one who says, oh, this is the message. He's part of the message. He's part of the structure. As an agent, as what we call in Greek, pietikon, pietikon aetion. The causality that makes. Okay. Now, this is very, very important because in the case of Christianity, that's the only case. I don't know of any other case where the hierophany, the agent of the hierophany, is the hierophany itself. So, I'm talking about the fundamental hierophany. There's lots of hierophanies. There's silly hierophanies, petty hierophanies, but there are, what we call foundational hierophanies. So, the foundational hierophany of Christianity, which is Jesus, doesn't have an agent just as part of the structure. The agent is the very hierophany itself. So what we see here is that Christianity is not a religion, and when it comes to hierophany, from a history of religions part, based on the theory of Eliade, of course, when we come to hierophany, Jesus is the hierophany, as a subject himself. So, let's work through these two, foundations. Christianity can be related to no religion or to all religions. It can take on everything. And it can take on everything precisely as what? Not as a religion, but as a hierophany. As the hierophany. Now let's go to theology. The problem we're discussing is not new. It's an old problem. And perhaps the first who really articulated it in the church, really articulated it and really was the boldest of the boldest, was just the philosopher Martyr. When he said that, look, Christians are not just after Christ, but there are Christians before Christ. Okay, not good guys, good people, but Christians before Christ. This theory of theology, revelation of God and the manifestation of God as a seed which grows. So there have been seeds with a potentiality that has grown, and when it came to the Christ event, that sort of potentiality witnessed its fruition. We have thinkers, theologians like Clement of Alexandria and Origen, who are very eclectic. Nowadays we're very sort of concerned when we hear the term syncretism. Really, really good. I'm a pro-syncretic. Yeah, I'm very into that. Not afraid anymore of the term. It's a term that can be used very, very beneficially from an analytical point of view. Now, Origen is a syncretic thinker. Clement is a syncretic thinker, and so forth. And we have also much more modern, I will refer to my abstract to two modern theologians, or thinkers if you prefer, from the Catholic tradition, the broader Catholic tradition, which is, Teilhard de Chardin and Raymond Panicari. Both of them articulating a theology of religions based on the person of Christ from a different perspective. The one by using the very dynamic, evolutionary schema from alpha to omega, and exploiting eschatology in this sort of sense. The other one by speaking of a very interesting idea, which is, I would dare say, the fifth causality here. There's a fifth causality, which is intentionality. because Jesus, as the foundational hierophany, has been interpreted and interpreted and interpreted and interpreted every time and period in different ways. And each of these interpretations, hermeneutic attempts, is not a foundational hierophany itself, but a fundamental hermeneutic hierophany. For that to be possible, it means that the hierophany within its structure, Jesus within his structure as a person, as a ministry, as an act in history, has an intentionality, a thrust, which is not totally known, but it becomes known, unpacked. So this unpacking of the intentionality, Raymond Paricard has seen in different religions. So I'll just give you an example. Yoga. Yoga. You can see yoga as exercise. Okay, good. You become very slim and very flexible. But you can see yoga as what it really is. It's a yugum, a unity. Now you can see it as a unity superficially, as a formal course. It involves this by Patanjali. Patanjali presents yoga in these formal terms by using the materials from the tradition, blah blah blah. And it sounds very naturalistic, very polytheistic, very hocus pocus. But you can also look at yoga from the intentionality perspective. That the Indian mind, the Indian consciousness, is through yoga trying to articulate the need, the existential need for unity. And then yoga can become, to give you an extreme example, but I really believe in it as a good example, yoga can become a Chalcedonian term. Because it's yugu, it's the real, unity of two elements. So for an Indian becoming a Christian and being, immersed within yoga, Patanjali yoga, you can think of such a person transcending their own tradition, not in the sense of devaluing it, but responding to its real intentionality and finding that intentionality in, for instance, the Chalcedonian doctrine, where we have the unity, the yoga. I just want to instigate dialogue, so and create, some food for thought. I will stop here. I think I've given you more or less the parameters of where I'm standing and what I'm thinking in terms of a Christology of religions. Thank you.